So I grew up in Iowa City, Iowa. My parents both worked for the University of Iowa. I thought what the students were doing was fascinating. I thought their idea that they, as college students, could do something to change the world was very powerful. I went to Dartmouth College in 1977, which was 5 years after coeducation. This was a time when the question of women entering previously all-male colleges was a big issue. There was outright sexism. All of the women's bathrooms were either formerly men's bathrooms or were under the stairs. So that was an indicator that you were an afterthought on campus. And in addition, there was a quota on the number of women allowed in. So only a quarter of the class could be women. There was a real sense amongst some students and alumni that we should not be there and that coeducation should end. And that made me start to very much think consciously about feminism and what it might mean and social movements for equality. I worked as an intern at the Washington office of the Presbyterian Church. They were very involved in supporting an organization called the Washington Office on Africa, and it did anti-apartheid work. And so I was able to stay through the passage of the sanctions bill against the apartheid government in South Africa. And it was a very formative experience. I again saw what I had seen as a young person in Iowa, which was the ways in which social movement could actually change the world. I got my doctorate in 1992, and I got a job at the University of Arizona. It was a joint appointment between what was then called women's studies and religious studies. And I was openly lesbian, and at that time there were not a lot of faculty who were out and active as gay faculty, and the students in particular were very much interested in and in need of support. So I got to campus and I was almost immediately advisor for at least 3 different student groups, and this was a time in the early 1990s when queer studies in particular was really coming together. So I started teaching immediately in this field, even though it wasn't my primary field of education, but there was just so much both need and excitement. This was at a time when the question of the relationship between anti-racist and feminist movements was really moving to the fore. The question that became the major question of my book was about how to be an ally in social justice movements. Because if it is the case that you're working across these multiple movements, you're always going to need to ally with people who are different than you are. There's complexity in any category. So the question of allyship is one that's always at issue in social movements. So I came to BCRW because I was very interested in the connections that the center had long made between activism and the academy. And they did this in ways that I think were really important, which is, first, there was never a sense here that these two activities were completely separate. Activism, especially in my experience, is intellectual work. Developing an analysis of the world, what's happening in the world around you, and how best to address it is one of the crucial activities that activism is part of. So that sense that knowledge is being produced in multiple sites and is moving back and forth across the boundaries that we generally see is really important, and it's something that we've really tried to acknowledge and build here at the center.